And President Trump today suggesting the Russia-Ukraine war could end within weeks. Comes as both Trump and Russia's Vladimir Putin teasing possible cooperation with the United States to do more business with Russia. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has more.
During a White House meeting on Monday with French President Emmanuel Macron, President Trump says he thinks the war in Ukraine could end within weeks. He asked that he expects Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to visit the White House soon to sign a deal on rare earth minerals.
I think we could end it within weeks if we're smart. If we're not smart, it'll keep going and we'll keep losing young, beautiful people that shouldn't be dying.
The main theme of Trump and Macron's meeting was to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. And Trump says they agreed that this is the right time for the war to end and that the cost and burden of securing peace must be borne by not only the U.S. but also Europe. Trump also emphasized that he's the one restoring communications with Russia.
Since my return to the White House, we've made more progress toward that goal in 1 month than occurred in the past 3 years. And I've spoken with both President Putin and President Zelensky, and again, a lot of good things toward peace are happening, moving it, I think, pretty quickly.
Trump on Monday announced that he's in serious talks with Putin about not just ending the war, but also about an economic deal between the U.S. and Russia, potentially involving the U.S. getting some of their rare earth minerals. And Putin on Monday also touted the potential cooperation. When asked about what makes him trust Putin, Trump on Monday said he believes Putin wants a peace deal that's also good for his own country.
But I think it's to the very much benefit of Russia to make a deal and to go on with leading Russia in a very positive way. That's what you have to do. But I really believe that he wants to make a deal.
The French president, meanwhile, praised Trump for trying to strike a peace deal.
There is a big change because there is a new U.S. administration.
But he also emphasized that without security guarantee for Ukraine backed by the U.S., Russia could try to invade again. President Trump will next meet with the British Prime Minister on Thursday, and that is to further discuss Europe's role in potentially bringing and maintaining peace in Ukraine. Reporting by Iris Tao, NTD News.
A Trump immigration policy hitting a bit of a roadblock. Federal judge today temporarily blocking the Department of Homeland Security from arresting illegal immigrants in certain houses of worship. Earlier this year, the Trump White House withdrew a Biden-era policy that prohibits immigration enforcement at certain locations. That includes schools, medical facilities, and places of worship. Several religious groups in Georgia and California suing the Trump administration, saying the operations are carried out with, quote, common sense and discretion. Meanwhile, a legal win for President Trump, a federal judge today denying the Associated Press's request to reinstate its White House credentials for now. The network was banned from the building for continuing to use Gulf of Mexico instead of Gulf of America. The judge says he'll allow the ban to stay in place until another hearing on March 20th. Federal workers are told to list what they've accomplished last week, and it's sparking mixed responses from federal agencies. NTD's Jason Blair brings us more from Capitol Hill.
In regards to this email sent out, some federal agencies have given their employees the green light to respond, while some have given them the red light, telling them not to respond. The Department of Defense told their employees to not respond to the email. FBI Director Kash Patel also instructed FBI employees to hold off on responding. And the State Department told their employees that the department will respond on their behalf. Other agencies that also told their employees not to respond include the NSA, Department of Homeland Security, and the NOAA from the Commerce Department. And these are according to internal documents. And among the agencies that told their employees explicitly to respond to the email include the Treasury Department, according to an internal document, as well as the HHS, DEA, FCC, and National Weather Service. Now, this email was sent out to all federal employees by the Office of Personnel Management and instructed them to respond with bullet points of what they accomplished last week by 11:59 Eastern Time on Monday night. Elon Musk promoted this email online, adding that those who do not comply with it will have considered to have resigned. Musk later on clarified that this email is, quote, a pulse check. And at the White House, President Trump also commented on some of the agency's mixed responses. He says that he's not concerned, and this was done in a friendly manner.
Only things such as perhaps Marco at State Department, where they have very confidential things, or the FBI, where they're working on confidential things. And they don't mean that in any way combatively with Elon. We have to find out where these people are. Who are they? And we said, if you don't respond, we assume you're not around.
And last week, a lawsuit was filed by federal workers' unions in response to this email and updated on Sunday. The lawsuit alleges that the proper procedures were not followed. It states, quote, prior to February 22nd, no notice was published in the Federal Register or anywhere else regarding any OPM program, rule, policy, or regulation requiring all federal employees to provide a report regarding their work. Reporting on Capitol Hill, Jason Blair, NTD News.
Vivek Ramaswamy is running for the governor of Ohio. Here's the former Republican presidential candidate in Cincinnati earlier today.
I will lead Ohio to be the top state in the country, where patriots across America actually flock to instead of Florida and Texas. I will lead Ohio to be the state of excellence in America.
Ramaswamy touting Ohio's fertile farmland, natural resources, and industrial aviation achievements. The former co-leader of DOGE calling for DOGE-like reforms and slashing red tape. Ramaswamy said he would lead the state of Ohio to become a destination for business growth and raising a family. And earlier I spoke with Republican Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne of Texas to discuss the latest on the big reconciliation bill moving through Congress. Congresswoman Van Duyne, thank you so much for joining.
Happy to be here.
It's great to have you.
Thank you.
Right off the top, we have to talk about the budget reconciliation.
Yes.
What direction do you see this heading? What is it sounding like? What are the rumblings?
Well, I'll let you know more tomorrow morning, right? We're going to have our conference meeting. We haven't been together for a week. I've seen some of the going back and forth on X. I've seen some of the interviews. I think it's going to be tough. I mean, a lot of us are asking for deeper cuts. We want to make sure that we are seeing government spending being taken control of, and we haven't seen that in decades, and which is why we got a $36+ trillion debt. To that end, I really think that Jody Arrington deserves a whole lot of credit for trying to bring together all sides of our conference to get a budget that we can pass. On the reconciliation side, you know, I know that the Senate and the House are disputing how that moves forward. I am strongly in support of a one big, beautiful bill that takes into account what's happened in our budget, making sure that we're giving them resources that Tom Homan and Kristi Noem have asked for to look at what's happened in our national security of what's going on at the border for the last 4 years, that we're looking at energy dependence. Coming from, you know, Texas, we obviously have a huge energy industry. We want to make sure that's healthy. We want to look at that for the economy and making sure that we're getting our tax plan passed. You know, otherwise, 90% of working Americans, taxpayers, are going to have to pay some of the largest tax increases in our nation's history. We want to avoid that. So I think getting that all in one bill up front as quickly as possible is the way to go.
Talk to us about border security. Obviously, Texas at the front lines, literally. What is going to be in this bill that's going to help further secure the border?
Well, we're looking at, you know, carrying over, again, this is not a slap together bill. The House already passed out H.R. 2, which is our Secure the Border bill. So we're looking at a Remain in Mexico policy. We're looking at a first safe country policy, so you're not having everyone who's applying for asylum having to do it from the U.S. You're looking at supporting states that are doing the right thing and are working with law enforcement and with federal law enforcement, and having their states, such as Texas, be partners with the federal government and making sure that we are prioritizing deporting criminal illegal aliens, but we're also identifying other areas of problems, other areas of interest. We're looking at securing and building detention facilities. We've had over 20 million people enter our country illegally over the last 4 years. We have to have some place to put them while they're awaiting repatriating to their own countries. These are just some of the issues, but also stopping some of the nasty policies that we saw in the Biden administration, such as catch and release, which did nothing more than treat our Border Patrol folks as if they were cab drivers. To let people into our country, give them plane tickets, bus tickets, you know, free roam around our country. We got to stop that practice.
I want to get your thoughts on the president's initiative with the Department of Government Efficiency and Elon Musk, causing a little bit of stir over the weekend. The 5 points to, report on what you've been doing. That aside, what do you make of so far the initiatives that have been taken?
They have been long coming. It should not shock anyone that this administration is taking seriously its job of being able to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Not to mention, if you think of the duplicative actions of a lot of these agencies, the fact that they have been able to run ramshod with very little accountability. I mean, the fact that you've got employees right now who are so offended because they're actually being asked, "What did you do last week?" You've got lawyers who've got to defend, every 15 minutes of their time, people who work for consulting companies, doctors. Welcome to the real world. I just think that the amount of offense that they're taking is kind of reflective of the unaccountability that they have experienced and they've gotten used to. And the speed at which they're acting, people seem shocked by this. I think that's just because they've come so complacent to the government not acting and moving so slowly. People should be thankful that they are uncovering this at such fast speeds. And quite honestly, I think Congress needs to step in line and start being a partner and actually codifying these efforts made by this administration just to make sure that when we have another president, it doesn't all get undone.
Waste, fraud, and abuse is one aspect of it. There's another term that we hear floated, or a few terms, the administrative state, the bureaucratic state. Talk to us about the interference that some of these unelected officials can have in these different agencies to affect the president's agenda.
I was an appointee in the first administration. I worked for Dr. Ben Carson, phenomenal Secretary of HUD. But what I found there was that the bureaucrats would specifically slow play the work of the elected will by putting together his administration. Yes, all of our political appointees are not elected, but we are appointed by an elected representative, which is the president. And I think what I found was that they slow play because they're used to doing it. And this is an administration who has seen through it and is not going to be able to put up with it anymore, and they're doing exactly what needs to get done. You really do have some great people who work for the federal government, and for those people, I was thankful to work with. But you've got a lot of people who basically look at this as not necessarily as a job, but as a paycheck. They're not, defending what they should be doing in those agencies. They're not working for the mission of those agencies. They're defending their own turf, and that needs to be uncovered.
Congresswoman, Apple just announcing a $500 billion investment to create 20,000 new American jobs. How does this fit into Trump's overall agenda to create more wealth and bring back jobs to the United States?
I think the last 4 years, you've seen the majority of jobs being created by the federal government at taxpayer expense. I think what Trump has said, quite honestly, is he's looking at private investment dollars. He's looking at the growth of our economy that's sustainable, and that is through private investment. And when you have policies that reflect that you want your businesses to thrive, that you're not going to make them non-competitive with the rest of the U.S. by tax policy or by regulatory efforts, but that's a good thing for our businesses. And I think what you're seeing is a direct result. These businesses are going to be investing not only in their future and their growth, but also their employees.
Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you.
The Trump administration recently releasing its America First investment policy, the entirety of which aims at combating the Chinese Communist regime and its military. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley has the details.
The Trump administration's new foreign investment policy aims at countering China and the regime's military. The White House says it will accommodate foreign investors in proportion to how much they distance themselves from the Chinese Communist Party and other U.S. adversaries, including Russia, Iran, and North Korea. The White House says that the Chinese Communist Party invests in American companies to obtain its technology and equip China's military. These funds go straight to the Chinese military. That's because Chinese law requires Chinese civilian companies to support its military and intelligence. So the Trump administration plans on using, quote, all necessary legal instruments to stop Chinese agents from investing in U.S. technology, healthcare, agriculture, energy, among other areas. Now, there's another side to this. The U.S. also says it will work to prevent U.S. companies from investing in the Chinese military civil fusion. Now that means new restrictions are coming to U.S. companies that seek to invest in China's semiconductors, AI, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, among other sectors that could contribute to its militaries, all of which is aimed to increase funding in the U.S. and discourage investments in the CCP. And it seems to be working. Apple said on Monday it would invest $500 billion in 4 years to fund an AI server factory in Texas. The factory is expected to create 20,000 new jobs. Many of Apple's products are made in China and face an added 10% tariff imposed by President Trump earlier this month. On Truth Social, Trump thanked Apple and its CEO Tim Cook, saying the move reflects the company's faith in his administration. Now, this comes as Chinese leader Xi Jinping spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the phone recently. The U.S. is working to quickly resolve the Russia-Ukraine war, now entering its third year. That's after President Trump spoke with Putin late last week, pledging to strengthen their country's relationship. On the campaign trail, Trump said that U.S. policies of isolating Russia and sanctioning oil following the country's invasion of Ukraine made Russia more reliant on China's economy.
He said the one thing you never want to happen is you never want Russia and China uniting. We united them because of the oil. I'm going to have to ununite them, and I think I can do that too. And they're natural enemies because Russia has massive land and China needs it.
Now, the U.S.'s work to resolve this war is sparking speculation that the Trump administration may shift its focus to countering threats from communist China. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.